Hello and welcome to our very first economics video at Sussex. So today we're going to introduce the basic economic problem. What is it? Well, it's about people. It's about humans. As humans, we've got unlimited needs and wants, haven't we? Most of us have everything we need, but actually we always want something more, don't we? We want bigger, better, newer, faster. We want the latest smartphone. We want the fastest car. We want the most fashionable trainers, don't we? And we want the most luxurious jewellery. We want the most delicious food. For me, I always want more chocolate. And we all love to go on holiday, don't we? So we always want more. Our wants are unlimited. The trouble is that resources are limited. There are not enough things in this world for all of us to have everything that we want. In fact, even things that we take for granted, like water, is limited. Have a look at this video, see what I mean.
I think everybody's familiar with the last 4+ years unprecedented drought in California, and that has really strained and stressed all the water resources in the state, how it gets allocated, and certainly has impacted fish, most notably. In dry years, it really stretches out who gets what and when.
Water is always going to be significant in the agricultural industry in California. We're constantly striving to do the most with the least amount of water. There's been a lot of growth in the almond industry. In the 70s, we were producing somewhere near 500,000 pounds of almonds, and today we're producing 2 billion pounds, and if we don't produce 2 billion pounds, there is a perceived shortage in the world.
When it comes to almonds, they've gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of years, and one of the reasons is the market is really hot for them. They get a good price, so it encourages people to go out there and really change from row crops like lettuce and tomatoes and things like that to orchards. When you have row crops, you have really dry years and you know you're going to have low water allocations, you can choose to not plant. With a tree, you got to keep it alive. So that creates this hard demand, and we've really seen that in California, which really creates less room for dealing with these really dry years. We have a particular run of fish called the winter run Chinook. When in dry years in particular, the water temperatures get real high. The drought has almost driven that particular fish species to extinction. Lack of water allocation for them can really drive them to the edge.
You've seen a lot of migration in California as almonds have been successful, other crops have been less successful, so the percentage of developed water that's allocated to agriculture hasn't changed.
So we get the idea from this video that economics is all about scarcity. It's about this idea that as humans we have unlimited wants, but resources are limited. There's not enough for everyone. And we saw in California there how there is a bit of a battle going on for water between the farmers and the fishermen. So our wants are absolutely unlimited, but resources are scarce. And that means that as a society, we have to choose what products we're going to produce with our resources and who is going to get those products. And these are economic decisions, and these are the kind of decisions that we'll be studying in economics. So before we finish here, I just want to think about this idea of resources. We've talked about resources a lot, but what do we mean by resources? Well, in economics, we think about 4 types of resources: land, labour, capital, and enterprise. They need a little bit of explanation because they're not all what they seem. So when we talk about land, what we really mean is raw materials, anything that comes from the land. We might be talking about oil, we might be talking about rice or gas or even water, but we're talking about raw materials, anything that comes from the land. So any business needs all 4 of these resource types to function. It needs some raw materials and it needs some labour, the second type of resource. Some businesses now employ very few people because of automation, but I think every business still needs some labour. And we need capital, or perhaps easier to understand, what we mean by capital is capital equipment, machinery. So we see a car factory here using robots in its production process. But how about teachers? We use computers. That's our capital equipment. A farmer will use a tractor. A restaurant will use an oven. All of these things are capital equipment, large pieces of investment that the business has put in order to help that business run and produce its good or its service. The 4th type of resource that every business needs is an entrepreneur like Jack Ma, enterprise, because it's the entrepreneur who brings together the land, the labour and the capital in order to make a business. So, what have we learned? We've learned that our humans have unlimited needs and wants. We've learned that resources are limited and scarce, and that forces us to make a decision about what we produce and who gets what is produced. And that is what economics is all about. And finally, we've learned about resources, that every business needs 4 types of resources. They need land or raw materials. They need labour, people to work in the business. They need capital or capital equipment. And they need enterprise. So that's the end of our first video. Thank you for watching. There are a few questions for you now to complete.